This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
He goes free. He goes to Gibbs-White.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Red Side of Trent, here to discuss Forest's exit of the FA Cup at the hands of Manchester City after a 2-0 loss at Wembley Stadium. Joined by Reece Lane and Christian Brown as ever. Reece, how are you first of all, other than the disappointment of yesterday?
Yeah, I'm okay. You, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm a bit more spirited than I think than the two of you, so I'm sure it'll be an interesting pod in terms of opinion and everything else. But we'll digress. Christian, how are you as well?
Yeah, apart from the result, all good. I think, if anything, I feel worse than I did yesterday. I think actually because it's sort of now you've actually had time to sort of fully process what's been missed. Almost, it's a bit more gutting, but yeah, all good otherwise.
Yeah, no, I completely understand where you're both coming from in that aspect, and I'm sure there's many people that share that emotion and that frustration and everything else. But yeah, we'll dive straight in. I mean, Reece, we saw each other at Box Park. Obviously, kind of stayed with our respected friends and enjoyed the atmosphere and everything. Did you enjoy it other than before the game?
Yeah, it was a great day, wasn't it? You know, this is only a second trip to Wembley, the new Wembley. I know, obviously, the older generation fans, it was every year, wasn't it, pretty much for them? But for like our generation, it's a second trip. I'd say definitely more riding on the first time as well, just to get out of the Championship, wasn't it? I mean, that is your league's your bread and butter, especially with a club like Forest not being in the Premier League for as long as we had. Yesterday obviously was a bit more kind of enjoyable before the game because obviously as well you are going into it as underdogs. You know, Manchester City are a superb football team as much as they've had some struggles this season. So yeah, it was a great day. Obviously some Forest players and that on stage, ex-Forest players should I say. I think the playing of the same songs after a bit did get a bit tedious, but Box Park's good. Obviously the food there's superb, and obviously to spend it, it's about spending it your day with your friends and your family and that them type of days, aren't they? So I think if you was all sat in a room with some cans and that, you could make a good day of it, couldn't you, with your mates, knowing that you're heading to Wembley to watch us in an FA Cup semi-final. So yeah, it was a nice day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Christian, do you follow in that motion that it was a bit more of a relaxing occasion in that you could enjoy it a little bit more because of what Reece just alluded to, that we were underdogs and maybe although our expectations have gone up as the season's gone on, but the expectation to beat Manchester City in a one-off game at semi-final at Wembley could be seen to be reaching as such. I know that sounds like I'm being very, very pessimistic, but would you agree with that to some degree?
I wouldn't say it was reaching at all. No, it's a one-off game of football. Anything can happen in a one-off game of football. But I would say that, yeah, it's fair to say we went more with hope and expectation. So I wasn't nervous going up to the ground or going through the turnstile or anything like that. It was, you wanted to see Forest turn up, but I never went in there thinking that, oh, there's like this weight of expectation on us or anything like that. Like we all knew what we're up against in Man City, and yeah, it was just. Yeah, I think it's just the way the day sort of panned out was quite deflating, but the whole pre-match, yeah, there was no, it was just calmness. There was no, I don't think you could ask 10 people in the street who you think is going to win today, Forest or Man City, and there's a good chance all 10 would have said Man City. So it is what it is. We all thought we had a chance, and going for second half, we had a bit more than the chance, but yeah, just one of them things.
I can hear the disappointment in both your voices. I mean, yeah, let's discuss the first shock of the day, which was the team lineups, and the exclusion of Antti Langer was probably just as shocking as seeing young Zach Abbott start at right back, Reece.
Yeah, that was a major shock, and I mean, I don't think anyone could have predicted that, even those who were obviously getting team leaks on Twitter. So, yeah, a massive surprise, but just shows the faith that Nuno has in him to put him in for such a big game against obviously the opposition. Because it was going to be Jack Grealish or Doku on that side. You've got £100 million footballer, whatever you think of Jack Grealish in terms of what they've spent on him, and Jeremy Doku is very, very tricky. Alanga, I think it's clear we're kind of managing his minutes, aren't we? Because if he's 100% fit, he's started, isn't he? The only other reason why he isn't starting is just because Nuno probably thinks we haven't got anyone who he can hang his hat on to impact from the bench in an attacking sense. We've seen a bit of Jota, we've seen a bit of Souza, we've seen a bit of Taro, but they aren't first team regulars, are they? Who you kind of hang your hat on and think, yeah, they definitely going to come on and change a game. Alanga with his pace, especially with how we play, as you saw with the chance, what we're going to come on to when he missed, I think, 2 minutes after he come on, that who makes that run to get on the end of that, and we'll talk about that later in more detail. But yeah, it was a surprise, but clearly Nuno, I mean, obviously Alderano isn't clearly fit enough. Clearly he doesn't think Alex Moreno can play right back, because he would have played. I'm sure he would have played there because of the minutes he's played. So yeah, it gave Abbott a brilliant chance, and obviously another one who's come from the academy to kind of make his claim, and it keeps that stat going until, I think, is it 1940s, something like that, which is
I believe it's 1949 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, they said it on ITV because I watched the coverage earlier. It's something that they always bang on about Manchester United, but for Forest to have that start, whatever you might think of such and such who's come through the academy, it's something to be very proud of the club, and it was great that stat carried on, and yeah, a surprise, but yeah, we had to get on with it, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, Christian, I just would like your thoughts on that as well, because it's some place to come and make your debut in the FA Cup. Like, I know Zach Abbott featured in the League Cup. I think he's been a little bit unlucky that he's not featured more so in the previous rounds of the FA Cup, but maybe because of the opposition and like we've got quite a bit of depth at centre half. Maybe Nuno thought otherwise, but I mean, I don't think he did himself any disservice. I mean, we'll get onto it a little bit more later on, but great, not a bad place to kind of showcase your ability, even though it was a round peg in a square hole, or however you want to call that, square peg in a round hole, whichever way.
No, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure supporters of a certain generation probably have flashbacks to Cluffy throwing in Gary Mills. I think the 1980 European Cup final. I think that was his first game. Just go on, off his European Cup final, you go. But it was a bit. Yeah, I mean, I think it was what was pleasing was that how the raw, obviously, because his shirt number is so like low or high depending on where you look at it. It's like 44 in it, something like that. Like obviously the whole Eagles ran out last, so yeah, the whole crowd was like well behind him and proper supporting him. That was really nice to see. He was good. He was all right. Like he didn't really do anything wrong or anything like that. He was safe. He was steady. He gave a good account of himself in an unfamiliar position. I think it says that Moreno's may as well start going back to Villa now, to be honest. He's not playing at all yesterday, if I'm being honest. I mean, whatever fallout from that Everton game has taken place is obviously that severe for a left-footed centre-half to play right back on his, second or third start for the club, where he's played about 60 minutes previously for Forest. So that says everything to me. He's done, Moreno. So any indications that he'll be sticking around or anything like that, forget it. I thought it was quite noticeable as well at Spurs that it was Morato who did this sort of the fist bumps at the end and not Moreno. Yeah, I think he's long gone now. But going on to Abbott, Hans, yeah, it was a massive shock to see him in the starting lineup. I don't think anyone would have even predicted that to be a possibility. We all thought, maybe we could have a winger there, which ironically we did in the second half of Jota Silva against Doku, or maybe we'd do something else. But I don't think anyone saw that coming. But to be fair to him, he was thrown into a cauldron and he came out fine. It was his proper sink or swim moment, and he swam. Good luck to him, and yeah, to keep that record going is obviously very important to the club. And yeah, it was very pleasing to see.
Yeah, definitely. We'll speak more about Zach a bit later on in the show, but Reece, I think it's safe to say Manchester City kind of shut the crowd up very, very quickly with such an early goal. I mean, it's so uncharacteristic for teams to score straight through the middle of us this season. I know it happened on a couple of occasions, but the way it did, and the way Kovacic kind of rode a few tackles or a few challenges, and Rico Lewis had so much time at the edge of the box just to pick his spot, didn't he? And it kind of popped our bubble.
Yeah, and some. I did think as a whole, probably first half, we was worried about bringing one of their players down. I thought we was worried about finding, because of how much City keep the ball. I did feel like we was worried to take a foul in case Oliver just brought out a yellow card. And you could see that from the goal, because I think it's Gibbs-White probably has a chance to bring Kovacic down, and is actually Danilo behind him. If he would have done, I think Oliver would have just blown up and given a free kick. But yeah, he gets by Gibbs-White, and then Danilo's not quite quick enough, and then it just slipped into Rico Lewis, who's in that corridor between the defence and the midfield, gets it out his feet, and it's a great strike. You can't take that away from him. He's put it right in the bottom corner. There's absolutely no chance for Matt Sells. You know, there's some fans saying if obviously Yatesy was in there, could we have stopped that? But we've seen similar goals up at the Etihad when, you know, other midfielders have started. So it's not just a blanket. If we've got somebody else in there, yeah, he might have taken him. He might have done what I've just said there, brought him down. But then, like I said, if someone gets a yellow card in that centre mid against City after 2 minutes, it's gonna make life even more tougher, isn't it? So you can understand why we haven't fouled in that situation. But it's a lovely quick bit of play from City, and they've just caught us. And unfortunately, like you said, Adam, I mean, that just completely sucked the atmosphere into it away. All that obviously build up. It was just, I think, for the 10 minutes after, where we literally just could not get the ball off them. And if you're Pep Guardiola, you're absolutely buzzing at that start from them, because you've literally quieted 35,000 who are up for it. And then we know our City play. They keep the ball. They bore you to death in terms of concentration, and they can do it. And this so many times yesterday, I know we'll come on to the one where we actually did get the press right, but they can just pop it round you. The players are so comfortable on the ball. And yeah, it was just such a great time for them to score, wasn't it, really? Just, you would have been absolutely delighted if it were Guardiola, and you're disappointed you conceded early on, but it was a lovely bit of play. We should have been tighter, really, but you can't take anything away from Rico Lewis for the finish. He's put it bottom corner, and like I said, his left Sells with no chance, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, Christian, just to wrap up the first half, because there wasn't like terrible amount of chances, but I just wanted to speak on like the issue that we had with the press against City, because it just seemed like they're so organised at being free almost, and players drifting into certain positions to always have someone free. I just felt like we never knew where to be in terms of our shape. Danilo especially seemed to get caught out in like no man's land a lot. And then like you compare the contrast of his performance on Monday night against Tottenham, where he was sublime at helping Harry Toffolo and shielding that back four. It was just like chalk and cheese, and I felt so sorry for him, because it just made him look terrible. I mean, he wasn't great on the ball, granted, but he really stood out as someone that just didn't really know where they needed to be, which then hampered probably the rest of the team in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, he was bad. There's no getting away around it. He was very, very bad yesterday. I'd have taken him off after 25 minutes. You could see, like, it was just a glaring weakness in the side. It was like Forrest playing with 10 men. Like, he was that bad. And, it's difficult, because, I mean, we all saw the team, and obviously the main question mark was on Aber, and why Lang was on the bench, etc. No one really questioned Danilo, because obviously how he played on Monday night. And, it's strange, because like Danny said when we had him on the pods after the game, if he's very right in what he says, in that you got players like Murillo, Milenkovic, for example. I'd even say someone that goes as far as saying the wingers, or even Anderson, for example. Anderson, let's say Hudson-Odoi and Elanga, both of them played well. They could all play very, very well, and Forest might not. That doesn't guarantee Forest to win, but it does feel like if Danilo plays well, Forest generally do win. So I completely get starting him. I completely get, everything else, especially on the back of Monday where he was very, very good. As we said, it felt like, oh, bloody hell, Danilo's back. But Jesus, it was bad. I mean, but I think we all sort of forgot in the aftermath of Monday that this is someone who we've all said in this pod several times. I know I definitely have, that he shouldn't be starting games. He shouldn't, though, really, after what happened. We should be easing him in very carefully. Obviously, it's testament to how much Nuno likes him or rates him, that he is constantly getting these minutes, because Nuno clearly loves the bloke, and with good reason. I mean, obviously, last season, again, we hark back on 7 wins with Nuno. Danilo started all 7. So, but I think we forget that, he's had a very traumatic injury. We forget that, within 45 minutes of his first day of the season, his foot's bent the wrong way around. We forget that he was down for 10 minutes with medics trying to carefully put him into place. Murillo nearly in tears next to him. We forget that when he eventually came back way ahead of schedule, he's putting his ankle into an ice bucket to try and take the swelling away from it, because his ankle's the size of a tennis ball. I think we sort of forget all that because we sort of see, oh, he's back. We sort of don't look at the bigger picture as such. But he can't be starting games for us. It's just too soon for him. He needs to have that rest, get his body up to speeds, because he's going to be inconsistent. We know he's going to be inconsistent because that he still feels like he's chasing that sharpness. And yeah, we felt that he might have been there on Monday. He definitely wasn't yesterday. And it just became easy for City. I actually felt on the wings, Forest are pretty solid. They weren't really getting a lot of joy down the middle, down either side. City, they're moving it around, but they weren't doing anything. We actually kept them out pretty well. It was just through the middle, and you had a 3-man midfield, which shouldn't be happening. You had Dominguez and Anderson basically doing the jobs of 3 men between the 2 of them, because there was all at sea. So yeah, it was a bit sad to see that. I think what's more annoying is some of the things I've seen online since, how we suddenly, crap, he's terrible, we need to get rid of him. He's never done. I saw one say he's never done anything for Forest apart from that little flurry with Cooper at the end of the first season with us. I mean, some of the nonsensical things I've seen put out today is just laughable. And obviously we all know the reason why, because of where he plays and who could have played there instead. That's not a coincidence. I'll gladly say that. But just because he's had one bad performance doesn't mean he's a bad player. I think that's what some of our fans seem to get. Yes, they were incredibly disappointing all round. We've lost a semi-final. They don't come round too often. And yeah, Danilo's a big part of that, you can say in the first half especially. But come on, I'm not writing him off after one poor game in a season where he shouldn't even be playing for the club. But as a matter of fact, he did play. He was very poor. And yeah, like I said, I'd take him off sooner. I think the only reason he didn't come off sooner is because we probably are protecting Elanga, like Reece alluded to earlier.
I think just to touch as well on Danilo, we have to take into account the opposition, like he played well at Tottenham, because Tottenham are Tottenham. You see, when we play Manchester United, I know Manchester United aren't very good, but they've got Bruno Fernandes in there who'd play for probably every team in the league, wouldn't he? Let's be honest, or at least in the consideration. Obviously, yesterday, if you're off it against Manchester City with how they keep the ball and the little 1-2s and just keeping the ball moving, you're going to get found out, unfortunately. But I've said it all along with Danilo. Sometimes you just, I think, I'm not sure if it was Danny or you said, Christian, but he's either seems to be quite good or actually really poor, and there's kind of no in between at the minute with him. But that, like I said, with that injury, I just don't think he's going to get kind of back to the level what we probably think we can get to until getting that pre-season again. And to be honest, this pre-season probably makes or breaks his Forest career, because we need to, we just need what is he to us? Because I think it's fair to say, Elliot Anderson is a nailed-on starter. Right? That other centre midfield position, I don't think. Like at the minute, I think all us on this pod would probably say Dominguez would be for us. But as a whole fan base, I think you'd literally get probably half and half saying either Yates or Dominguez in there at the minute. I don't think you get many saying Sangare, which is a shame because we've spent a lot of money on him. I actually thought he'd come on yesterday and did all right in his moments, but Nuno doesn't seem to want to really put him in there. And then obviously, like Danilo. So obviously, when we're trying to go up the levels as we are next season, it's kind of like, what is Danilo in this squad? Because if he's just going to become a squad player getting minutes here and there, you'd probably think, well, we may as well just cash in on him, really. Similar to what we did with Mangala, who was kind of like, well, some games you play, some games you don't, but we're not sure if we can hang his hat on fully. And if you've got a decent fee, then, pre-season, and then we'll judge him next season for me. But at the minute, absolutely, like a few I've seen online, would you probably put Sangare ahead of him and give him a go? But it's going to be between Dominguez and Yates into beside Anderson, because they are the three you can hang your hat on the most for this season because they've played the most. And the proof is in the pudding where we are in the league. So I think it's going to be a mixture of them three starting for the rest of the season. Definitely Anderson, one of the two, Yates or Dominguez. And then, maybe does he give Sangare a few more minutes? I don't know. That's up for Nuno to decide.
I think what I don't get is that he's obviously been very careful with Sangare's minutes, but he's not with Danilo. And Danilo's injury was much worse. So I just find it very, very strange. But I do this.
I know what you're saying from much worse. But if it's just a clean break, usually your breaks can heal better than like a hamstring.
I suppose.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair to Mangala, he was a first team player when we sold him. He pretty much started every game. But it's weird again. Like we talked.
He's in and out of the team a lot. They want to Mangala.
Well, in the first season, yeah. In the second season, he was nailed on. Starting that 3-man midfield of Sangare, Dominguez, and Mangala. It was every week. But it's just interesting. I mean, obviously Nuno loves him. I think if you said what is my dream midfield to Nuno, Danilo is probably in that midfield pairing or trio, whatever you want to put it. But I mean, the inconsistency this season is to be expected. But if we get it moving forward, it might become a problem.
Yeah,
I think last season, just to finish up on Danilo and move on to looking at the second half, I just think. Last season, he had a few troubles, and maybe even in the first season where he'd have like little niggles and injuries and stuff. And I think this has kind of hampered him. Like I kind of agree to what you're saying, Reece, about this next season might make or break him, because he then needs to have a full season where he might play 30 to 40 games across all competitions, and then you can kind of judge him on that.
It's just about consistency, isn't it? You're going to get. I know he's still young, so you're going to get odd games where he's probably not at it, but Elliot Anderson's been very consistent this season. I think Dominguez and Yates, again, they'll have our bad games, but I think as a season as a whole, been pretty consistent in that midfield, because you can't be, we could go back up to third if we're, win the game on Thursday and obviously level with all the other teams. You can't be carrying passengers in midfield and be third in the league. So they've clearly done the job there. But even like Christian's just said then, he's just picked the midfield from last season: Sangare, Dominguez, Mangala. Well, Danilo's not in that, so it's like. But when Nuno did take over, like Christian again said, we won every game he started. I think it was at 6 or 7 games. So, yeah, pre-season for me, he's probably just going to have to manage his minutes. But again, taking the opponents into consideration, you're looking at some of the opposition who've got coming up next. They're not Manchester City either. That's not to write. The teams we've got coming up next, they're all going to be tough games in this league, but they're not Manchester City, so we'll have to see.
To be fair as well, he was playing left wing, Danilo as well, weirdly last
year. Pretty much. It
was Alanga.
I think we need to kind of know what is his best position, because I'm still not quite too sure, to be honest.
I think we know where he wants to play. It's his role. It's whether is he a holder, is he a box to box, or is he an attacking midfielder, or is he someone that will break from midfield box to box, basically like kind of what you'd like Elliot Anderson to become more of, where he scores a few more goals.
Yeah. I think, and obviously Anderson takes that spot, but he's him or Anderson in that role. I think
the thing that puts Yates ahead of Danilo, especially, is he's always available. Them three are the fittest players at the club. Really, they're always available. Him, Gibbs, them three, and Gibbs-White. They just always play. So it kind of writes itself. But we'll move on. Christian, I mean, Alanga come on. Reece, should I say? I'll give you this. Alanga come on. We'll talk about his like cameos of late, but he's got to score that chance, hasn't he? I mean, but it's a great run. It's a great pass from Callum Hudson-Odoi. He kind of connects with the ball too cleanly. Like when you rewatch the replay, proper like side foots it really well, just not in the goal.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the run's superb into that. You see him within 2 minutes. What you're going to get from Anthony Alanga, because who makes that run, that combination, but. Should he score? I think he's at least got to hit the target there. The problem is like Ali McCoy said, that Ali McCoy actually said he thought he went with the right foot, but he actually finished it poorly. Now, obviously, if you watch the replay, he could have gone with his other foot, and that's what I would have said. He kind of needed to really put it across Ortega rather than, because he tried to put it in that gap at the near post, and the gap was minimal. Whereas if he'd have probably let it come across his body, because did he go? What was it? Was it
right foot?
he
Went with
right foot. Could he
did
have
this? It was
with it? Could he have swept it across with his left? I don't know. But in the moment, it's all in the moment. But yeah, he's got at least it. Whatever foot he goes with, then he's got at least make Ortega make a save. You know, at least then
so it's
you
kind
can
of
say, well,
similar to the Villa goal, isn't it? In a sense.
Yeah. It's just got to Ortega. He just got to work Ortega there, and it was a massive challenge. And it's, you know, the two moments, the two key moments, the goals. That was part of it because they went down the other end. What was it? 3 minutes later and scored, and that's obviously what kills it off, really. But fine margins, as Mark Warburton used to say, isn't it? But that's what it is, and that's why they won yesterday. They had, because on chances created, the game I thought was pretty even. You could even probably say maybe we might have edged it, but they took their chances, we didn't. That's why they won the game, unfortunately, and that was a massive chance for us.
Yeah, I mean, Christian, it's a headed goal from Josko Gvardiol. I know he's the top scoring defender this season, and he's a threat from open play as well as set pieces. But it always seems to just go over the head of Murillo, doesn't it? And someone pop in. But yeah, it's a shame. Such a shame.
It reminded me actually of time hop and footballology as well. I think we had City on this day last year and lost 2-0 as well. It felt very similar to that game in a lot of ways, where Forest had the best chances of the game, didn't take them, and ended up losing. And obviously conceded to a set piece goal, which straight. I mean, yeah,
Man City last year.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah, it was again very frustrating. I mean, we thought we've ironed these issues out, and we really. I mean, without Milenkovic, you can sort of. I suppose it's how much the standards have changed. Really, without Milenkovic, obviously, Forest concede from set pieces. You sort of think, okay, fair enough, he's not there. But when he is there and it happens, it's like, oh, that's a bit of a collector's item. It doesn't really happen too often. But simple balling. I mean, to be honest, I mean, you mentioned Murillo. I also flag Sells because anything in that 6-yard box should be his, and he looks like he's sort of I mean, you know, I don't want to criticize the bloke too much. He's done a tremendous amount this season. Very, very strong claims, and one that I would personally endorse as being the best goalkeeper in the league this season. Hopefully, he gets a Golden Glove to sort of back that up too. But it's in your 6-yard box. He sort of half comes to it, stops, and then that just allows if he just carries on going, it's not a goal. So yeah, either commit to it or don't. But yeah, I mean, a mixture of that and Murillo getting beaten in the air. I mean, it just seemed like a communication mix up there, and very, very simple, goal to concede, which is very annoying. I think the Elanga miss really was the turning point, really, because I think obviously if we do score that, does that still happen? Probably not. But that's the end of it, isn't it?
I think what's frustrating as well is we literally got a warning just before that with the two chances. Sells makes a save.
Yeah.
They come on the overlap and we just kind of asleep and they get a shot away. So I think it was Mateus Nunes 1-2 shot. I think Sells saves it. Then comes out to Kovacic. It hits Zach Abbott on the back. There's a penalty shot in there. It obviously wasn't a penalty, but at the other end, you're thinking, oh my God. And then you're thinking, really, we've just got away with one here. Let's get ourselves set. And then to concede such from a set piece. I agree with Christian. For me, Sells has to come for that because he comes and then he goes back. You've just got to be assertive there. Either come or don't. And when you because then he's in no man's land, and that's why, because he doesn't head it in from far out, does he? What is it? 6 yards, maybe.
Yeah,
and that is our kryptonite from corners in that 6-yard box, that corridor of uncertainty, or the front post flick onto the back post. That's where we've been caught at the very rare times this season from corners. But yeah, it's just got to be definite there. It's easy to say it now, but I'd actually rather Sells come out and miss it than kind of come halfway out and then go back. But
no, I agree. At least
made
he's
a
actually
decision. Yeah,
at least he's made a decision. That's better than going and coming back and then just being out completely.
Again, like Christian said, you can't be too go over the top. I mean, he makes a great save for Marmoush not long after, where you think if City get a third, you're thinking it's going to go downhill very quickly. So, yeah, it's just one of them things. But, it's something we mentioned, I mentioned earlier on in the season about how he was so good at scoring at perfect times. City did that yesterday. Scored early, crowd goes quiet. Forest have got a bit of momentum second half. We brought on as best player off the bench, who was on the bench yesterday. We've had a chance, we've missed it. City go down the other end within 3 minutes, the 2-0 up. And yeah, after that, we were much better, but unfortunately we couldn't score. And City they've got your arm's length, them, haven't they? They can up the gears if they kind of need to as well. So yeah, just disappointing. So 2 goals are so sloppy, I guess, from our standards.
That's been my my biggest gripe with Sells this game. It's just his authority of coming out and claiming a cross and such. But I'm not going to get too much into it. Like there's no point. He saved us on so many occasions. But I mean, Reece, we've more Gibbs-White's hit the bar twice. I mean, the first one he's like we just said before we started the pod. I mean, he made Elanga's cross look unbelievable. It would have been one for the FA Cup kind of catalogues of great goals, especially in semi-finals, if that had gone in. And then we have to talk. Well, we'll talk about both, but the one way around, Ortega after you read the press quite well to nip in. I mean, we've got to kind of talk about it, because everyone says, "Oh, we should have scored it," but I'm not playing in front of 72,000 at Wembley and in one of the biggest occasions of the club's history.
Yeah, well, that's why they pay the big bucks, though, mate. Such is the business. The first one, what a strike! What a strike that is. Technically superb. The power. Everything absolutely perfect as a strike. Like you said, Adam, Elanga's cross is just a clip ball in. He's like Ali McCoy said in the comms on the replays. What he's like back. He's leaning back a bit in terms of having to. Honestly, I'm gutted for him, because that would have been, like you said, one of the great FA Cup goals, because he couldn't have hit it any sweeter. And Ortega was absolutely rooted to the spot. No keeper in the world even dives for that, because they're beaten. They just know they're beaten, and such was our luck yesterday that it hits the crossbar. The second chance, it's been missed quite a bit this has, but the press from Dominguez creates that chance, because he forces them into a mistake, and that is probably the one time where we actually force them into an error. It comes across to Gibbs-White. I think for me in the ground, he probably should shoot first time. There was also another chance where we clipped it over the top for him, and he should have volleyed it towards goal. And he tried to set up Chris Wood on it. And I think even Chris Wood, as a striker, would have been like, go for goal yourself. So even I'm not expecting that. But he obviously takes it round. Ortega, solves him with a dummy, makes the angle tight. But he has to score, mate, unfortunately. He does have to score. He knows it. That's why I was absolutely devastated at the final whistle. And he apologised. He didn't have to apologise for what he's done for the football club. That's just football, unfortunately. But he knows it. We know it. He had to score. And unfortunately, he just couldn't quite execute it. He had to go with the side foot once he took it around the keeper. There's no other way of scoring that chance. And it was just our day, wasn't it? Even Tyro with his snapshot hits the post. And you just... when that hits the post...
Tyro did really well to actually react to it.
I know.
So fast.
Just a snapshot. I didn't even realise Tyro had hit it until the replays. I actually thought it'd come off one of their players, and you're just thinking, Jesus, how much bad luck are we going to get here? And you just knew it just wasn't going to be our day, was it? When you've hit the post 3 times, and honestly, you concede him from a set piece, which we don't usually do. We concede him really early on, which we don't usually do. You just kind of knew it wasn't going to be your day. But, like Morgan said in his interview, if one of them would have gone in with probably 10 minutes to go, even 5 minutes to go, you would have felt we could have got one more, because then the momentum swings, and City, as good as they are, have been a bit edgy when they've been ahead this season. I think it was at final 3-0 up, drew 3-3. So I know they have been approved in recent weeks, because Pep's seeing his wife again, so she's probably got the tactics laid out, as the theory goes. But unfortunately, just so unlucky. absolutely gutted it. Just couldn't, because we deserved it. We deserved the goal. We did. The fans did deserve the goal, but unfortunately, it just wasn't our day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll round it up, Christian, because I came away from the ground immensely proud of the team. I mean, I think there wasn't really many empty seats from the red side of the stadium that didn't applaud the team off the pitch, didn't give them their dues. I mean, everyone sang Zach Abbott off as he came away with a bad cramp in his hamstring and his calf or whatever he'd done, bless him. I mean, I thought we got right behind the team, and I think they did us all proud. I mean, Captain Hindsight would say it was such a missed opportunity, because if you beat City, you fancy yourselves against Palace in the final to win it. So I couldn't completely understand it from that point of view. But for myself, I really went and enjoyed the game of football for a change, rather than worrying about the result, like detrimenting our place in the league sort of thing. It was quite nice in one sense, as well as disappointing on another, because we were so close with the chances we've discussed.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, I said to Reece at the ground, like, it felt like when you played like one of those, when you play FIFA a certain amount of times, it just decides you're not winning today. Doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter what tactics you enforce, doesn't matter how you approach it, you're just not going to score. The keeper makes all these ridiculous saves. Like, I have never seen Juju like it, hitting the post 3 times. Obviously, Alanga miss. Even after, like, I thought it was Dominguez at the time. It was Gibbs-White, the header, which from behind the goal, looked like Osimhen just plucked it out of the line like it was nothing. I was like, how have we not scored? The block shots before then as well. That entire sequence, you can basically, like, if you just clip it, that obviously the block shot, Taiwo hitting the post, the cross comes in, the header gets saved. I don't think they even clear that properly. Even we still couldn't do anything with it afterwards. If you're not going to score from that, you're just not going to score. It's not your day, and that happens. It's football. I suppose the other side of the coin you could argue is that a team who needed 3 penalty shootout victories to get to semi-finals are perhaps going to run out of luck at some stage. Unfortunately, it happened to us at Wembley, but I think it was just galling because, like I said at the start, we don't get these opportunities often. That was our first semi-final in 30 odd years. We haven't won a major trophy in 30 odd years. We haven't won the FA Cup in 60 odd years. It was just, I think, it would have been pretty special if we could go and do it. It wasn't even the fact that it was City or anything like that. It's just, I don't really look at the opponents or anything like that. We could be playing, bloody Barcelona from 2009 to 2012 in the final. It doesn't matter. It's a one-off game of football. It's just getting there. And unfortunately we couldn't. But so yeah, I mean, I get your point in that it wasn't as stressful as the last 5 minutes at Tottenham, for example. But it was still pretty gutting because you just don't know when that chance is going to roll around again. I suppose if you look at Palace, as an example, Palace, when they lost that FA Cup final in 2016, the one where Pardew was dad dancing on the touchline and then they imploded and Lingard
got the winner. Yeah,
he did. Yeah. I doubt if you told them, you'll be back in the final in 9 years, they'd probably be like, no chance. Because for clubs like us, outside that sort of Sky 6 barrier or shield, you just you've got to make the absolute most of it when it comes around. But no, we'll see. Nuno is a very good knockout manager. I think obviously he got to the final with Rio Ave in Portugal. He got Wolves to semi-final. We won't go into how that went for them. Obviously, he got us to semi-final. He got Wolves to the quarters of the Europa League as well. So maybe we will have days like this again. Maybe we do. They do become more frequent. But I suppose when you've spent 2 decades out of the top flight, whatever else, it becomes harder to sort of accept that it could be your day again when it goes by like that and goes by so painfully as well, because we made enough chances that second half in 4 games of football, and to not score any of them is just bewildering.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Reece, have you got anything to add onto that?
Yeah, I mean, I echo pretty much what Christian said there, and you as well had immense pride at getting to this stage. It was so good to see, I think, so many fans stay behind and not kind of have that mass exodus and cheer the team up, because they deserved it this season. They really have. The season they've given us, and we've now got 5 cup finals in the league, which is what they are, starting on Thursday. And we as fans have got to try and get them over the line, because we've got one foot in Europe, I'd say now as a whole in terms of qualifying for whatever competition it may be. But with us being in the Champions League place association, this is where we want to be. This is where the club wants to be. This is where the owner will want to be. And then you look at his fixtures on paper. I know football's not paid on paper, but the games where Forest should be, if they want to get in the Champions League, we can only blame ourselves if we don't get the results. So especially the next 4 games, because you've got 3 sides who've got absolutely nothing to play for. I know Brentford have got a very outside chance of breaking into the top half and Conference League maybe. I heard Oliver Glasner earlier that he says he wants performances before the FA Cup final, but as a player, you're thinking, do I want to get injured? Do I want to get a stupid red card for that final? In the back of your mind, obviously Leicester have been relegated. West Ham, have been pretty dire all season as well. I think it's gone quite under the radar to say. Apparently, they won the transfer window according to the media, along with Ipswich. So yes, it's hurt. I think it's hurt a bit more today. Personally, I think watching the highlights and stuff, and it's kind of a what if moment, like Christian said. And in my lifetime, this is the first time I've got to a Wembley semi-final, and I'm 33 years of age, or 32, should I say, or 33, one of the two.
Have you stopped counting?
Yeah, 33 this year. So
32 before you're 33, that's the rules.
Yeah, that's it. And obviously, this is the first time. So if someone said, it's going to be another 33 years, which I'm hoping it isn't going to be, and the odds would probably say now, at this level, it's not going to be that long, but you want to take them moments, don't you? And I think as well, my final point on it is that, and this is no disrespect to Crystal Palace at all, because they were absolutely fabulous on Saturday and they fully deserved to beat Villa. I thought they were brilliant, Palace, and fair play to them. And if it wasn't for the European congestion, I'd actually probably want them to win the final. Hopefully by that stage, we've cemented it. So, yeah, I'd probably cheer them on then. But you look at Crystal Palace in the final and you're thinking, they're not a hitter, are they? They're not a Man City. They're not a Liverpool. They're not an Arsenal. They're not a Chelsea. I know Chelsea more reputation, but we'd probably go into that final as favourites, really, slight favourites.
I think it'd have really brought back the romanticism of the FA Cup if we met Palace in the final, or even if Villa. If we played Villa, it'd have been a great occasion. I think.
I think Palace will give City a game. It's just that if City turn up out of there, they will beat Palace, as we saw a couple of weeks ago when they turned up second half and absolutely battered them. So we'll see. But hopefully, I think from a neutral kind of perspective, we've secured our spot in Europe in the Champions League by then. And I think the whole country will pretty much want Palace to win, won't it? And that's not because it's against Manchester City, but just for somebody new to be on the cup, and especially a team who we've got no issues with, have we, Palace? So until we probably play them next Monday. Yeah.
So, I know you and your mate Alessandro is a Roma fan, is always like bugger everyone else. It's only us.
He was. They beat Inter Milan last night away, Roma 1-0. I seen him when we come out of the ground, which sent Napoli top, and he said, "Well, that is the problem because he absolutely detests Napoli. This is Roma going for Europe." So I think
they're like 18 games unbeaten now for any area, aren't they? Some ridiculous records. I think they'd be top from that point where he got hired. They'd be top if the league started there.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
He's gone back and done a great job. So it's probably set up that we'll really draw them next year for getting Europe away, because I've been to the Stadio Olimpico and I'm not going to swear, but it's a crap ground. So, yeah, moving on.
Right. Well, we are going to get into your slept on it thoughts.
Red side of the Trent. Slept on it thoughts.
Definitely not a league game, because there wasn't that many this time, guys, to read out. So been easy to be critical of various aspects, but proud of the boys. NFFC bod, the first goal rocked us, causing some players to let the pressure get to them, trying too hard to recover, but making mistakes along the way. desire was there to get back into the game, especially in the second half, but another early goal made it too difficult a prospect. Jeff wrote, mad day hopping around London to spot my sister in the marathon and managing to get my seat with minutes to spare. Poor goals conceded, so unlucky to hit the woodwork thrice. Alanga scores, it would have been us in the final. A shame, but so proud of the team. Champions League with a little target. Premier Elliott, I actually really enjoyed the day. It was a Forest everywhere. Sadly, couldn't lay a glove on the City midfield. Thank you to all the love the Forest fans have given my mum who's in the hospital. So yeah, I hope she's recovering well from her hip hop. I believe it was Elliot. I think that's what he said. Today's fact is the last year the town of Midgham was invaded by midges. Lovely. Cluffy the Cat, proud of our players, proud of our magnificent fans. Had no luck when we needed it, but we move on. 5 of our own cup finals to go. Tom Newton, slow out the trap. City capitalised on this and scored very early. Very tentative first half, and we looked very off it. Second half, a lot better, but the poor starts of either half had cost us. Hit the woodwork more times than a woodpecker. Just wasn't our day. Needed to take our chances. Keeping us in function. Nuno didn't give us the best chance to take on a City side with the weaknesses. Even with a 45-minute head start, Forest was still in it at 2-0 down. Moreno won't play for Forest again. Zach Abbott will many times. We needed a witch doctor to break the curse on City's goal. And last but no means least, Jerry Pritchard. Great day out. Support was immense. We won the battle hands down. We won that battle hands down, should I say. The scarf swinging after Mulligan time was spine tingling. City have better players, so with a weakened team, it's going to be tough. Not sure why Danilo is getting minutes over Sangares. He can't tackle it and doesn't press. Obviously, we're moving on to one player performance. I know we've already spoken about Zach Abbott, Christian, but I think he's worth a mention because he could well be a future prospect for this football club. I know he's been in and around the first team for the majority of the season, obviously playing then for the B team as well. Clearly, we see something in him because he didn't go out on loan, but there's also that thing of we've got David Carmo potentially coming back. Whether we actually see him in a Forest shirt or not is to be seen. And then obviously Tyler Binden, who's had an absolute unbelievable season at Reading, if you listen to their fans. So it's going to be interesting to see where Zach Abbott's development goes. But he didn't do anything wrong yesterday. I thought he played really well, considering the task that he had at hand.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is sort of the benefit of not randomly going out on loan. I mean, like me and Lee have said before, the notion that youngster has to go out on loan is a very outdated one and one that isn't necessarily reflective of the modern game. Again, I always go back to that conversation I had with when I was at university, the dissertation on the gap between the Premier League and the Championship, which would be quite an outdated read itself now, going by how things have changed. And I spoke to I think Southampton director at the time, and he said about James Ward-Prowse. He said, "What benefit is it us to send James Ward-Prowse out to a clogging team in the lower leagues, to toughen up a bit when his strength's on the ball? It makes no sense whatsoever. He's better off staying with us and holding that and becoming more integrated with the team." It seems Forest feel the same way about Zach Abbott on this season showing anyway. And, his reward for that was starting at Wembley. I mean, it's if you told him that at the start of the season, yeah, you aren't going out on loan to, say, Dagenham or someone like that, but you are going to play at Wembley. It's like, yeah, not fine. And you get to stay in between. You get to learn all of Nuno's tactics. You get to learn off players and watch players like Milenkovic and Murillo every day in training rather than, there's pros and cons of both, of course. But I do think if you've got someone that you generally see as a first team player and one that you actively think, you look at him and think, right, yeah, next 2-3 years he's going to be in the fold, there's no point loaning them out. Just keep them around. And and you talk about the physicality and stuff like that. These players train like they play anyway. If you mark Chris Wood in training, that's going to be more of an experience than it is, getting elbowed in the face by some striker in League Two. So that's my little 2 cents on that. As for the centre back thing, Carmo we won't see. It's like the Fugazi thing out of Wolf of Wall Street. He doesn't exist. We won't see him. It doesn't happen. He's either go back to Olympiacos. That's that. From Bolly's leaving in the summer. He'll be going. So that opens up a space in the obviously centre back department, which I imagine Benden would fill. But then, or Obama, depending what happens with him when he comes back from loan as well. There's that option too. But no, I mean, there's no reason why he can't. He was like we said, he was fine yesterday. He didn't do anything wrong. You kind of tell that the Forest team weren't openly looking to pass the ball to him when they could have done. There's a lot of times where their switch was on and they chose not to go inside. Almost like they were protecting him a little bit. That's fine. Obviously, there's pros and cons of that too. He isn't like Ola Aina. His starting position, I think he played himself very safe, which again isn't a criticism. It's absolutely fine. Whereas Aina, you notice him, he gets 5-6 yards higher up the pitch. He's always looking for the balls, looking to attack, sort of thing. I think Abbott was just like playing, just do what he can do well, and that was again absolutely fine. There was no issues with his performance whatsoever. He was good, gave a great account of himself, playing out of position as well. Yeah, honestly, hopefully it is the next one to come up, the next cab off the rank that can come into the first team. As we said when we got promoted, the bar even then was so much higher, because unless you are a Brennan Johnson or someone like that, you aren't going to get a look because the bar is just that high. But now we're looking at Europe to be even higher. So if he is around the first team, and if he is being trusted by Nuno in games like this, and this wasn't a small game either, it's an FA Cup semi-final, it shows that the people at the club think he's got a big future. So hopefully we do see a lot of him in the future, hopefully in the red shirt, because, yeah, I mean, he was good yesterday. Long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Reece, have you got anything to add?
Not loads different to Christian. Clearly, Nuno rates him because he wouldn't have him around, wouldn't he? He wouldn't put him in yesterday if he didn't rate him. So yeah, I think that sells itself, really. The loan system's one of them, it can be positive and negative. Like we've seen the positive side from a Forest perspective with Ryan Yates, played at every level, now captaining the side in the Premier League. The negative side, we've seen it with the likes of probably Alex Martin recently. Asapro Song this season went to Rotherham. I mean, that just wasn't a fit. So it's just about getting the right loans. And on Christian's point as well about keeping them, the main example is Phil Foden, isn't it? The media were absolutely desperate to get him out on loan, and Pep were like, no, he's learning with some of the best midfielders in the world. And I know he's had a poor season this season, but look at him last season, Premier League Player of the Year, still a big player for Manchester City. And I'm sure by the time he retires at Manchester City, which probably he'll be a Manchester City legend with about 50 pots and pans in his cupboard from all the stuff he's won. So, yeah, we'll just have to see. The centre-back one will be interesting this summer because, again, like Christian says, we're going to have to see on Karma what will happen there. I mean, that Christian may well be right. Omar is an interesting one because I know Strasbourg have been doing really well in France.
He's been playing really well there.
Yeah, there was actually in the Champions League, but I've just seen it dropped out. But they're actually 7th, and it's very similar to in the Premier League. They're actually 2 points off 3rd. So you've literally got 5 teams there battling out for 2 spots. Well, 3 spots because Marseille are only 4 points above them in 2nd, and then PSG are away. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Was he a permanent loan to?
I think there's an option to buy. Okay. I don't think it was an obligation, but I think he's been playing in a back. He's been playing in a back 3 for him on a regular basis and doing well under Liam Rosenior.
If he's doing well and Rosenior stays, because he's obviously going to get linked to other jobs with how well he's done. I mean, he's kind of gone on the radar. How bad of a sacking that was by Hull, because they're on the verge of getting relegated from being nearly in the playoffs. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting one. And obviously, like you've said, you've got Binden, who's also fighting for the playoffs. I've just looked at League One. They're outside the playoffs on goal difference. So everybody's fighting for something out on loan with us. So, yeah, that'll be interesting this summer. But and it'll be interesting with Abbott. Will we keep him around again, or will we look to get him a loan? And that's the key. It's got to be the right loan, because it can set players back if they get on bad loans. Just like people, there'll be some fans and will say, yeah, I never saw it with Alex Martin and that. But a bad loan could just send your career south, or a bad transfer. Look at Ollie Burke. He was absolutely on fire when we sold him. It was too soon a move. Now look, he's playing for sides who are bottom end of the Bundesliga. Arvin Appiah, when he come through, what was he, England under-19 international being raved about? I mean, is he playing in League One, I think, now? So,
no idea.
Yeah, it's getting the right moves and that. But he did himself proud yesterday, Zach Abbott, to come in. And something I mentioned was when we went to City, Adam, was when I thought Moreira come on, you could clearly see that Doku was getting by him with ease. I didn't think really City did him at all yesterday. I thought he just put himself, he just Yeah, I thought
His positioning was really good. The way
Yeah.
his body shape was really good. He didn't let Marmoush come down the line or
to his
anything.
task, mate, and that's what he had to do. And the only disappointing thing was I actually thought he was hesitant to give him the ball. There was a couple of times when he made the run wide on the right, and he was in acres of space, and we were switching it the other way. And I'm like, just give the lad the ball. You know, he's in the team. Nuno trusts him. You've got to trust him. You know, I mean, just give him the ball a couple of times. And it was I don't think he touched the ball for probably the first 10 minutes or so, when there was chances, very rare in them 10 minutes, where we could have just given him the ball, let him get a touch of the ball, a feel for it. And that's the only kind of disappointment really yesterday. But yeah, hopefully he's one for the future, and hopefully we can see him a lot more in a Forest shirt if he's good enough, and clearly Nuno rates him enough to be good enough.
Yeah. Well, Brentford on Thursday, chaps, which is a bit of an unusual one, but that is our game in hand. And then it's a massive opportunity, and I'm going to ask a controversial question, as I like to do on this podcast. You know me, I like to put you in awkward spots. We're going to bring up the league table, which I will be showing to Alex for the preview. If we win on Thursday, Christian, that puts us 12 points clear of 8th place. Does that basically give us European football of some sorts next season? Even though the goal difference is an issue, I won't mention it. It's a sore subject.
You'd like to hope so. I mean, obviously those. I'm not going for that same route again with Forest PTSD. So I'm saying it's mathematically done, and no, but it would be 99.9% of the way there if we win on Thursday. And for what it's worth, I think we will. I think we will beat Brentford. I think you'll see a very angry Forest come out on Thursday who have a point to prove and want to set things straight. They'll know themselves like how disappointed they are. I mean, you saw Gibbs-White at the end of the game, for example, he looked absolutely distraught. He'll want to make things right as vice captain or standing captain, however you want to call him. So we'll have Williams back. We'll obviously the question would be a left back. Who do you play, Toffolo or
Moreno,
wouldn't it? Yeah, if still be Williams. I guess it's just whether Ryan's fit or not. Yeah, I suppose, because there could be Williams out there yet. But either way, you'll see a very fired up Forest team going out there looking to make a point and prove a win. And I know Brentford are awkward. I suspect they will set up like Everton did against us. Personally, I know Reece will say that they have a bit more flair to their game, but we've seen Thomas Frank be very versatile with his tactics. He isn't afraid to batten down the hatches and drop a terror performance like that to get points if he has to. And like you said, they still have an outside chance of getting 8th, which could or could not get them Conference League, depending on how the FA Cup final goes. So, but I do think, we'll burn them away personally. I think that you'll see, pure fire to get back into positions. If we can create 5 chances like that against Manchester City, with respect, we can do that against Brentford and hopefully be more clinical. So, I'm backing Forest to win. I'm going to go 2-0.
Cool. I mean, Reece, same question to you, but I also want to ask you about Anthony Lang. I know we've not had. I know we've probably brushed over it, and we've not got loads of time left. But do you expect him to start from the off and actually give more than an hour, or do you still think there's this kind of underlying problem that we don't know about, but we know there's something up, because it's not like Nuno to keep giving him 45 minutes here and there?
Yeah, well, if he's fully fit, mate, he's got to start. I mean, we've got to play the 4-2-3-1. Nico's going to slot back in. Whether that will be if Iner's fit, then he'd slot back in as well, and Nico go to left back. I know that sounds harsh on Harry Toffolo, but Nico and Iner as best 2 fullbacks. You've got to play your best team. So if Iner isn't fit, it'll be Nico at right back, Toffolo at left back. The only other debate, and I'm not getting started on this, is that would Yates come in for Domingos, which the only reason why I'd lean towards that from a neutral perspective, not my own personal opinion, is that Domingos just runs and runs and runs, doesn't he? So really, could you probably drop Yatesy back in there because he's not played this weekend? We'll see. And I actually think that's probably what will happen personally, but we'll see. In terms of if we win, are we in Europe Thursday? Well, yeah. I mean, you look at Bournemouth's fixtures, they've got Arsenal away, Villa at home, Man City away. So if they was to win all of them, it'd actually help us out, really, to be honest, especially Villa and City. Fulham actually go away to Villa on Saturday. I've said this about Fulham before, but Fulham are just too inconsistent. They win one, they lose one. So I couldn't imagine, touch wood, they'd win 4 games in a row. We'd lose every single game. So you never know with Forest, obviously, from the past. But I think that would put us 1 foot and 4.5 toes in Europe, wouldn't it, if we was to win on Thursday? And we've got to win on Thursday if we want Champions League, mate. There's no doubt about it. I think the next 4 games before the Chelsea game, at the very, very minimum for me, I'd be looking at 8 points. At the very minimum. Because, the 2 home games, I'm not saying we should be winning, but I mean, we definitely should be beating Leicester. I know that's a derby game, but it wouldn't surprise if they didn't even sell out that game because they've been that bad this season. Derby. And then you're going away to Palace, who, like I said earlier, are going to be thinking all about the FA Cup final now. I know Glasner wants 2 performances, but we shall see. So even if you say, well, we'll take a point at Palace, wouldn't be too bad a result. And then West Ham, they've been dire all season. So you can easily go there and win. And you'd like to think going into that last home game against Chelsea, really, that we're kind of there. Or at least nearly there. You know what I mean? We don't kind of want like last season's home game against Chelsea when it all went badly wrong in the last 10 minutes. So,
yeah, definitely. It was a crazy game, that.
It was, mate, yeah. It's 5 cup finals, like I said. We start on Thursday, and us as fans and everybody, we've just got to get behind the team, haven't we? And we will be behind the team because we're selling out every week at home. There'll be 3,000 away at Palace next month on Monday evening. Again, another trip into London. West Ham's on a Sunday afternoon. These are all awkward trips for people, and Forest fans keep selling them out. I'm heading to Palace. It'll bring me the setup on a personal note for the Premier League, every Premier away ground. So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, first of all, Brentford on Thursday, and I'm a bit. It's probably the only thing I'll disagree with Christian on. I don't think they'll be like Everton as such, because I just thought Everton are so workmanlike. Brentford have got players who can hurt you. The only player who I was kind of worried about with Everton is Illiman and Dye, and he's a bit inconsistent. But Mbeumo and Vista are on it. Look at Mbeumo's returns this season. They are quite.
Damsgaard's been good as well.
Yeah, quite underappreciated. I think he's got 24 goal and assists, and 24 goal contributions in Mbeumo, which for a bottom half side is superb. And I think this is nearly on, or probably on 20, hence why we wanted him. So we've got to kind of keep them quiet. So it's going to be a big task for whoever is at left back against him. And I do think it'll be a little bit closer. And I do actually think they'll score Brentford, but I'm going to go for 2-1 for Forest. You've got to believe, haven't you? And hopefully we can shake off yesterday and, get back on the horse, as you said, and because we're going to need to. We've got to, unfortunately, forget about yesterday quickly. And as fans, this is something that's quite good. I'm actually quite pleased we've got a game, so we can just forget about what happened yesterday in the results.
And the fact that we're playing for something. Like it's not like we're playing for nothing. So, and I think that gives us that energy to keep going and keep shouting for the team. And I mean, like Christian said, I think we'll be well up for it. I think Gibbs-White will be hurting that he didn't score definitely the second chance. That's the first one I can forgive him for, because he's made it out of nothing, basically, in some respects. So
that was the solace, wasn't it, yesterday? He wasn't coming out that ground and thinking, oh my God, it's season over now. We just basically got 4-5 games, with us, trotters up, and we're thinking about next season. We've still got 5 massive games. So that's the solace we'll take. And hopefully
I'm just going to finish with this note. There's so many people that think we're a boring football club because of how we play. We've had 4 seasons of absolute mayhem. Like, we've been promoted, we've avoided relegation twice, and now we're fighting for Champions League. There's no mediocrity.
Even the COVID season, we were in a relegation battle, and then the season before, we obviously completely
capitulated.
Yeah, and then even the season before that, we was going great guns until Brentford and decided to boot Karenka out the door.
It's never boring. I generally think
it's never boring.
I think the only time we've come mid-table, I think, in my lifetime supporting Forest, I think was the 03-04 season. But even then, we went like 12, 14 games without a win that season. We were bottom 3 when Kinnear took over. And then we went on that mad run towards the end of the season.
I think the only time I can remember is probably when Dougie Freeman was managing.
I was about to say,
even then we still had
quite tedious, but he actually got us. I thought with the budget he had, he did a great job, Dougie Freeman. I know
Absolutely,
some
yeah.
fans won't agree, but he
was
had no money to spend. So,
but I'm going to round it off. I'm looking forward to the game. I think we'll win 3-1 personally. I think it'll be quite edgy, and then I think we'll roll our sleeves up and take them, to be honest. And it'll be great to do the double over XGFC, rattle Thomas Frank to the core, although I actually think he's a really good manager. Love him or hate him or whatever. From a football point of view, I think he's actually really good. So, it's going to be a tough game. Yeah, it's going to be tough, but I think we'll win 3-1. But thank you very much for everyone that's joined us. Hopefully you'll catch us on the preview and then also on the review for the Brentford game, probably on Friday in some capacity. But until then, enjoy the rest of your week. The weather has been absolutely lovely. So enjoy that, and we'll see you next time. Come on, you Reds.